Hello everybody, welcome back to this Jevero tutorial series. We have a new version coming out. It's the 2019.2 version. It's coming this July and it has a bunch of new interesting features that I would like to show you. The first one and maybe most interesting one is the boundary Boolean tool. So what this does is lets you create a boundary based on a surface. So let me show you what I mean. I'll just create a boundary, some lines like this, and I'm going to create a boundary after in a new way that we put inside the software. So I have this type of area here. Will be very explanatory, so it's very simple. But yeah, by clicking here, we have this new button here, create a boundary using Boolean. When we click, we see that it will ask you to select the objects that we want to identify the areas. This means that if I select here and press enter, I will be able to select the areas that these lines form. So if I click, it will select the 4 sides of this square. And then if I click again, it will extend the boundary to this area here. I can do it for every area, and it will unite the areas. And when we press enter, we'll see that we have this boundary here. So it's very simple, very quick, and there's other few things that we want to point out. The first one is that if we click, so it will, of course, the boundary will disappear because we cannot create a boundary on top of another boundary. We select the areas, press enter, and then we look at the options up here. First, these two, delete input and output, should never change. So delete input equals none and output equals curves. We don't want to change from that. If for some reason you have it different from this, you see, click on none. If you, for example, you have used, you should check and say none. Same thing if it's surfaces, click on it again and we'll go back to curves. What we can play with is combine regions. So if we say yes, it will combine the areas like this. And if we say no, it will not. It will keep them different. So these 4 squares will be 4 different boundaries. And when we press enter, you see that this is one boundary. Sorry, this is the other one. And then these are all smaller ones, like this one. And for example, we can create some parts and you'll see that this is one, this is another one, this is another one. Of course, you get it. It works like this. So remember that this should not change. These should not change, output and delete input, and you can choose to combine or not the regions when you select the surfaces, the areas. And welcome back. A new feature that we have added in this new 2019.2 version is the possibility of editing a chain much like a boundary. So for example, I have my chain here. Of course, it's always like this. Constraint chain with constraint ends. And yeah, when I go ahead and edit, I can now replace with this button the lines that are make the chain and create a new one. I can press OK, and now my chain will be this one. It's just a quicker workflow. I'll show you maybe even the beginning and the end of the chain. You can pick a new one if you like to. So for example, you want to keep this line, or you want to change the constraint end. So beginning, constraint, and now I add this, and now it will be this. Same thing for the end constraint, and yeah, you're able to edit the chains like the boundaries with the little points, little dots. Another thing that was added in the 2019.2 version of Jevero is the possibility of selecting the generating lines of every entity. So I'll show you how this works. Let's say I have a baseline like this, and then I'm going to create a margin on this. Separate a little bit. Then I'm going to create a marker on the margin like this. It's all right. And then I want to take this whole thing and mirror it. So select the mirror, enter, select the axis, and this is our entity group. So with this button here, select a line and all the light that generate that. I will click, and for example, I want to see what's generating this marker. When we click on the marker, everything that is parent of the marker will be selected. Now we can highlight the points and edit. It's very simple. Since you cannot edit this, you cannot move it, you cannot make it treat it as a normal line, this is the button you want to use to pick the whole thing. This might be very useful maybe in your pop-up. So you want to put it here so you can be very quick to just, select this and edit, and be very quick in the editing just by selecting what you need. So let's see something else. For example, if I select the marker, you see that the lines that generate the marker are the mirror, the baseline, the margin, and the other marker. So it will not select the other two lines because they are not direct parent, but they are on the same level. Same thing if you want to select, for example, this mirror line, you see that the marker will not be included in the selection, and neither will be this one. So yeah, we can work very quickly by selecting these. I want to edit just this margin and the baseline. Yeah, it's useful also to highlight what's creating. A new feature that we added in 2019.2 version of Jevero is the chain analysis panel, and you can also find it in here at the hammer icon. So this tool will let you highlight whichever boundary is not right, so the lines are not intersected, and maybe like this, if I create a boundary that is open and all the lines do not intersect perfectly, when I press enter, you see that the software will try to merge and extend the lines to close the boundary, but it will not be right when then exporting and cutting. The machine will not recognize an open boundary. So this tool will let us see and highlight the boundaries that are not right. So while we're in the process of creating the model, we can always keep an eye here and check whichever boundary needs some fixing. So for example, I create a boundary like this, and then you always had to hit refresh. Over here, you see that when I click on refresh, it will show me other boundaries. Sometimes it can happen that you have a small portion of a line that is not part of the boundary, and then it will break, but it's very hard to see because it's a very small line or portion of a line. So this will help you in the process of fixing your model. You see that when you click on the respective boundary, it will be highlighted, and then if you double click, it will let you edit the boundary. In this case, I need just to move this line a little bit to the left, and then double click, and you see I don't want this, so I'll take it out and press enter. Now you see that when I pressed enter, the boundary recognizes all the intersections, and the chain analysis tool will make that disappear. So we'll do the same again. So edit. Of course you can, if you see it, if you highlight it and then you see it, you can always edit from here. It's the same, it's just it activates also by double clicking on the name of the boundary. Refresh, and the voice will disappear. We have also the possibility of highlighting and hiding everything else, so that it's like this, and then we can edit and we'll toggle the generating lines, and we can modify the boundary in the way we prefer. And then if we want to go back to the original model, we can, on the parent parts, or even here on the design tool, we can toggle the the master layer and show everything again. All right. A new workflow that we added that simplifies the grading work is the possibility of assigning the lines without having to go through all the menu of the different curves that you see here. So the way this works is, we have our grading table, we have our model, we want to create a new grading center, and when we create it, we want to assign the curves. And when we do, we see that only the baselines will be highlighted. So base curve, no mess with boundaries, nothing that will interfere while we're selecting. So now it will be much quicker and much easier to just select whichever line you prefer, then you press enter and you do whatever you need and press OK. Now we see that these, it's a little bit confusing, but you see that these are highlighted, and of course the dependent, like the boundary or the margin, will follow like always. All right. There are a couple of improvements we made on older features. For example, The border template now is easier and quicker to use, so I'm just creating something that resembles a heel, and I'll create a boundary on top of it. Okay, now I'll have my border template. Let's see what this is. Right, let's work with this. We can say, of course, like always, apply nodes, and they will apply on the baseline and on this side of the boundary. You can replicate this through every side, and we can undo. Thing that before we could not do. You can apply and say OK when we're satisfied. A new feature that we introduced in the 2019.2 version of Jevero is the ability of handling the materials in a more organic and more complete way. I'll show you what I mean. So, for example, I have my simple model. I want to edit this part, and now at the material line here, we have the possibility of assigning a material that is coming from a set. So not specifying by writing it, but creating a set of materials by going here, and maybe I already have a material 1, so I'll say material 2 and change the color and save. So now I have my material 2, and when I export, for example, this report, I can select the PDF, say test 2, material, save. Yeah. Alright, and when I go over my material, test 2, and you see on this PDF you will see material. So now it's going to be easier. I have another one assigned here. It's going to be easier to just manage the materials in this way, because in a way that it's the same for everybody. So we have improved that. This is also going to reflect on the layering, because you see that here it's already going to be assigned, and a different color will be assigned to the part. So this is how it works. Welcome back. A new feature that we have added in the 2019.2 version of Jevero is the possibility of exporting the parts in batches. So I'll show you what I mean. I have my model, I have my parts, very few parts, simple, my grading table, and when I go over and export, I can now right click and say export data for batch configuration, cutting with different configuration. So I have my file, say OK, green text rhino DXF, say yes, and now here I can choose different configurations and different parts and sizes. So for example, I have my paper configuration, I want my tongue, and I want my 3, 4, and 5. Say confirm. I want to change configuration and say atom part 2, 3, 4, and 5. Confirm. I want Procost configuration for part 10, 8, and sizes 11, 10, and 9. confirm. And yeah, I'll do another one just to show you what it does. So I select all, select 9, 10, 11, 12, confirm. So now you see you have our graph here with all the sizes that we have selected and the parts, of course. Press OK. We have our command batch export data, and now we have a folder that if we open, we have all the different files. So it saves separate files for every configuration. In Procost, it does 3 different files for every size that we choose. And we have Atom configuration, CM44, and DXF configuration. So it's a very quick way to just export a lot of data in just one action.